Hey everyone, Luke here. Now before I get into the chapter, I just want to say a few things. The pantomime that I went for, I didn't get into it, but as we've always said, that's not going to distinguish my my ambitions, and I hope to get into the next show with that group that I went to audition for, and I've got a filming coming up which I'm really excited about. Hopefully I'll find out the filming date soon, but that's what I wanted to say, guys. So yep, let's get into the chapter, and we best prepare our tissues. Hey everyone, Luke here, and welcome to the Promised Neverland chapter 109, titled Forward. Now, this chapter starts off with I just want to talk about the cover of Shonen Jump this week. It shows Emma, Ray, and Peter Vitari in a humanoid style, which is really interesting, seeing those characters, seeing all the tiny little details that go into them. And it's really interesting that we see Peter on there, because that could actually be foreshadowing based on what happens in this chapter, because it's most likely that Andrew, I'm just going to cut to the chase here, Yugo dies in this chapter and Lucas is implied to die, and so is Andrew. So that actually gives an indication that Peter, that's the next obstacle, which we've known this for a while. Like, Peter is the main antagonist of the series, so he's obviously going to be the one that they're going to have to overcome, and I feel like he's actually going to come into the forefront now. He's going to find out what happened to Andrew, and he's going to be like, right, I'm going to take those kids down myself. Sort of like how with Thanos in the Avengers movies or in the MCU, how he just had constant failure after constant failure, and eventually he's like, right, I'm going to do it myself. I feel like that's what Peter is going to do. And also, I want to say one thing. I watched Controlled Chaos's video on the Promised Neverland, the last chapter, and what they said about how the anime these action scenes will look better in the anime as opposed to in the manga, and I agree with that. But that's the same with any action, with any series that has action in it. It's like, in my opinion, the action doesn't come into the forefront. I mean, the action is good in some series like Bleach and One Piece and My Hero Academia. They have phenomenal action, but it's own, but particularly with My Hero Academia, because I know One Piece's animation is not really the best. But I'll use My Hero Academia and Full Metal Alchemist as the perfect examples. Like, their action doesn't come to life until you actually have the anime there, and you have like all the backgrounds and all the like little touches in place. Like, the anime is like the icing on the cake to the manga, and the Promised Neverland, this is going to be no exception. Like, they actually are going to look so much better once we actually see them out, particularly the fight with Lewis. That fight is going to be absolutely phenomenal once it gets to the anime, if it actually gets to the anime. And if it does, I'm really looking forward to it, because they could just add so many little details in to those fight scenes that it's just going to be that much more incredible. But yeah, front page of Shonen Jump this week is awesome, and right now we can just get right into the chapter. Okay, so we get a cover spread as well in terms of celebrating Halloween. I mean, I know this is after Halloween, but fuck it, I'm going to talk about it. I'm wearing a Death Note shirt, as you can see, and also how appropriate, because Death Note, this series is pretty much similar to Death Note in a way, in the sense that it's more tactical based rather than just straight up action. And again, the action in Death Note, that really didn't come to life, because I read the manga of Death Note and I watched the anime, and again, the action in Death Note didn't really come to life until the anime got its hands on it and really just spiced it up and added the few little details like the music and the voice acting and just like the intensity of the scene through the animation. It's the same thing with Death Note. It's the same thing with any series that don't rely solely on action to tell their story. It's like, when they do action scenes, it's not really going to be it's not going to be one of their strengths, but when it actually gets to the anime, it just shows how exciting they can actually be, particularly with so little that they have. Like with Death Note, they had so little that they could actually do in terms of action, but what they did, they made up for it in spades by giving us some intense scenes that we could really get invested in. It's the same thing with Promised Neverland as well. So yeah, well, I do agree with Control Chaos's views on how the action doesn't really come to life until it actually comes to the anime. That really shouldn't dismissing the series, and they do actually make a good point. Like, some of the characters in the Promised Neverland are a bit underdeveloped, whereas compared to something like Dr. Stone or We Never Learn, how you have characters in those series, but you can easily identify and remember who some of them are. With other characters, like those kids that got killed in chapter 107, that would have been a lot more impactful if you actually knew exactly who they are, and they weren't just like some fonder kids that were just used there for a shot value. If it was Oliver and Violet that actually died, then it would have been that much more impactful. But anyway, yeah, getting to the actual Halloween cover spread, it's actually quite interesting how we see it, because we see all the kids, and we see like Andrew getting swarmed by the kids, like just like get off me. It kind of reminded me of the fight between Yamamoto and Yuha's clone Royd Lloyd from Bleach, how it had all the skeletons on Royd going up, who was disguised as Yuha, going up him, and it kind of reminded me of this with the Promised Neverland. But also I wanted to talk about Emma, because she's actually could become the embodiment of a demon, and it also reminds me of Red Riot from My Hero Academia. Kirishima, how he goes into his Red Riot form, it kind of reminds me, has a similar style to that, and I find that really fascinating, how if that was intentional, it shows the respect of the authors with each other, and the respect of authors, like taking ideas and inspirations from each other. That reminds me of Bakuman. I'm watching the anime Bakuman, and hopefully I'm going to go back and read the manga, which is by the same creators of Death Note, except Bakuman is more telling the story of manga artists trying to get into Shonen Jump and the difficulties of it, and how the manga artists like push each other along. Like they don't want to lose to each other, but at the same time they don't want to. But at the same time they all want to surpass each other, and they kind of encourage each other and egg each other on. And it's kind of reflected in like real life, how the authors, yes, they don't want to lose to each other, but they respect each other, and I really find that really fascinating, and you got to commend them for that. And also you got to commend them, like they've got to keep up with a weekly schedule. Like every single week they've got to keep pumping out chapters, and they've got to be like having editors breathe down necks and saying like, right, this isn't working, you've got to slow this down, you've got to work this out. Like manga artists can't really be like their own creative person when they have editors like telling like, no, this is what you need to do, otherwise the series is going to get cancelled. And that's something that we've all got to keep in mind. Yes, the series can have stupid moments at times, but at the same time, and it can be feeling rushed, but at the same time, that can be down to a combination of things. And maybe the writers and the creators don't actually want to rush their series at times, but they're being told that they have to do it if they want to keep their spot in the rankings. If you watch Bakuman, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here, and I feel like this applies to all of them, and we all need to like be aware of that. Like they're just human beings as well, and they can make mistakes, and we shouldn't be blaming them for that, and we should be like taking into account a combination of things that we have to take into account of why the series goes the way it does, and whether we like that decision or not. We have to take into account a lot of things. But anyway, moving on to the actual chapter itself, it starts off with the kids entering back into the forest, and it's quite interesting how we see this, because we see all the kids from Gracefield House, because they've been here before, they've been to the forest. It was where they were rescued by Songju and Misuka, which I'm really hoping that they actually make an appearance now, because it'll be interesting to see how they've changed over the past 2 years, and how they interact with Emma and Ray at this point, and if they are actually going to continue to be allies. Because I knew because we had those chapters where we saw them at the beginning of the arc, so I feel like they are going to make an appearance still, and it'll be interesting to see if they're actually going to help each other. But yeah, we see the kids from Gracefield getting all excited. We see the kids from like Grand Valley. I think it was Grand Valley that the kids from Goldie Pond came from. And we see them like getting like confused and like being like here and like, I don't know about this. So it's interesting to see the stark contrast that they have from each other, where they're from the Gracefield and the Grand Valley under the forest and the underground tunnels, and all the Gracefield kids are like, wow, it's been a while since we've been back here. The Grand Valley kids are like, Emma, bring Christy over here, and they lay her down, and then Ray sets out the rules. He's like, right, listen here, from now on, this is our new home. It's not comfortable and cozy like the shelter, but it's safe. Neither the Atari nor the demons know about it. And that line that Ray said, even though I get what he's trying to do, is trying to like take a sense of leadership here now that Lucas and Yugo are no longer in the picture, and they have to rely on Emma and Ray to basically lead the team, because they've basically fought as much, if not more, than some of the kids here, and they basically have to take the leadership. And I really like that about them, how they've not been the ones that have been like, right, I'm gonna just lead the pack, I'm gonna get them out, even though they have been like that, like the pack leaders, they haven't really like been one to jump and be like lead them as such, and be reliable. Particularly Ray, he was like willing to leave the pack behind, but he's like slowly coming to his own. It's kind of like they treat them like the leaders of the pack now, like anything they say goes, like they're the leaders essentially. And it's really shown the difference of like they're not just main characters, they're not just the two main characters of the series, they're actually the leaders and the inspiration, and they're the glue that holds everyone together. But anyway, the line that Ray says about not all the demons know about this, even though the Gracefield kids know about Sungju and Musica, the Grand Valley kids and don't know about them, and I get a feeling that it's actually going to be a standoff between like the Sungju's not going to realise that, oh, these kids are from one of the plantations, and they're not going to realise that Sungju is on their side, and it may lead to a clash between them when they first meet, which will mean that Emma and Ray will have to step in and explain the situation. And if that happens, I could actually see that happening as a realistic thing, because it would show like the moral grey area and whether or not they can actually truly trust each other at this point still. So as Ray goes on to say that, right, we will rest, we will take turns watching guard. We see everybody getting rest, and Emma is seen taking guard, and it shows her watching over Christy and being carefully worried about her, and she thinking to herself, Christy was shot and two are dead. And we see the flashback with the two kids that actually shot, which again would be much more impactful if we actually knew who they were or what their names were. But that's besides the point. I mean, I love the series, but when there's bullshit like that, that's kind of like, yeah, you really have to call out the series on that. Particularly what happened with Ray when he tried to commit suicide and it didn't happen. Which now I think the authors actually learned their lesson, because what happens with Yugo in this chapter, I feel like they learned their lesson. Like, okay, we're not going to do that with Ray. We're not going to do that with Yugo, because that would be a cheap cop out at this point. But anyway, we see Emma worrying about Yugo and Lucas and saying, it's almost morning, how are they doing, did they win? I don't know what to do, if by any chance something bad happened, it would be my fault again. And that's just amazing that they're still keeping like they're just hammering it, just how much psychological war and psychological turmoil that Emma's going through, that because she wants everyone to survive, even in this demon world, and even she in the back of her mind subconsciously knows that that's not a case. It still affects her and still makes her question if she is actually truly worthy of actually being the bridge and the hope that these kids have, that they can actually survive in a world without demons and without being food essentially. And I really like that about her, like where we see her just like how she can go from that serious determined, like we can do this, to being like, oh my god, what if they're dead, what if it's my fault, what if it's my fault, I don't know what to do, And I love that about her, how she could just flip on a dime and we don't know what emotion or what aspect of her character is going to come out, which just makes her really unpredictable in terms of what she's in terms of what action she's going to take, and it just makes her that much more fascinating to read about, which is why she's my favourite character, because you don't know what she's going to do next. So Emma continues to go on and say, I thought that was the best option, but I wonder, maybe there was some alternative. It's so scary, I'm scared. And she continues to talk to herself and say, 2 of our comrades are dead, and we can't afford to lose any more. We can't afford to have any more casualties. We're 60 children, and yeah, this is the kind of problem that we have here, because there's 60 kids. It's going to have to be spread out. Like what happened with the final arc of Bleach, when they all went to the Soul Prize, and you had all these characters, and Kuba had to like thin out, like, okay, which characters are going to get focused on, and it was too much, and it's too much here. So like, we're going to have to either have some kids die. Some kids like just continue dying, which would just be a real child and just like put Emma through enough more suffering than she's actually going, or we're gonna have to have it where some kids like where they all separate, kind of like what happens with One Piece all the time, where like the crew's gone like a little bit too big, like Kubo separates them and focuses on characters for portions of the story, but then focusing on for other characters, like what he did with Dressrosa, like what he's done after the time skip, how we had Dressrosa and we had like Zoro and Robin and Frankie being like the center, and Usopp being like the center focus of that arc in terms of the story, aside from Luffy of course. And then when we got to like Whole Cake Island and so it shifted to Nami, Brook and Chopper, whilst Usopp, Robin and Zoro went off, and Sanji, whilst the others went off to Wano. So like we focused on them for Whole Cake Island, and now we're getting back into the rhythm. And I feel like that's the pattern going to be focused on One Piece, and I feel like this is what needs to happen with Promised Neverland. Like, right, we need these characters going off here for a while, and then we need to focus on these characters for a while, and it kind of like it gives an even out, and it allows us to develop on characters that we don't know anything about. Like, we know a little bit about Anna, but we don't know that much about her, which amazes me why she got so high in the popularity poll as opposed to other characters. But anyway, continuing on, Emma continues to say it's hard to move in the field. It's hard to move when we've had to run before dawn. Yugo and Lucas are strong. They'll be fine. There may be more enemies about to strike. We couldn't spare anybody else. They said our group could be attacked too. What course of action would save everyone? And you just see her like it's just breaking her down. And I'm waiting for the moment when she just actually just breaks down and just snaps and it's just like just the whole world crumbles before her, and she just completely loses it. But all this is interrupted when we see figure say Emma, and we look up and she looks up and it sees that Yugo. But of course, as I spoiled at the beginning of the chapter, Yugo is dead, and this is sort of like what happened with when Ray and Emma thought Norman were dead, and when they were on the wall about to escape Graceful, and Norman appeared. It was sort of like a subconscious from Ray's perspective, and it's the same thing here with Emma and Yugo. Like Yugo's sort of like her mind like forming a human to like actually tell her what's what. And it's an interesting callback to what happened when it at the end of the fight with Lewis, where we had Emma fainting, and it showed everybody as just like aspects of her mind. Like we had Crone, who was the aspect of her mind like giving up, but then we had Mama, who was the aspect of her mind that was like no, don't give up, and Norman as well. So it's kind of like her mind is forming the people that she's made connections with in order to help maintain her balance and maintain her stability in this world, rather than going completely insane. And I really love that about Emma as a character, because it shows like not only has she made an impact on the characters, but they've made an impact on her, and they've actually and she's actually manifesting her thoughts as those characters, not only to give us somebody else not only to give her a sense of a figure to actually talk to and guide her, but also to give us but also to help us see these characters again. Because even though Lucas and Yugo are dead, I feel like they're gonna pop up when Emma has a thought, and it's just been like, are you giving up? And they're going to manifest in the form of her mind and her thoughts and her emotions. And I really like that, because like I said, it gives us a chance to see those characters again without it being cheap, like, oh, they've come back from the dead. But of course, Emma doesn't know that this is all a dream at this point, and she thinks Yugo is actually dead. So she's like, "Is Lucas okay? How is everything? Did you win? And Yugo just kind of like brushes off the subject, which is her mind subconsciously tired. Might be subconsciously tired. Like, no, I am dead. I'm not coming back. It's all up to you now." And this is basically a passing of the torch moment from Yugo to Emma, as he continues to say, "So is Christy all right?" And Emma said she's still unconscious, and she explains that it seems like the bullet only grazed through, and Sax's crew says the bleeding has stopped, which is good for Emma's sanity, because I don't think she could, particularly someone from Gracefield House, someone that she's the big sister to. I don't feel like she could actually cope with that for the moment, cope with losing someone like that for the moment at this point. And Yuga goes on to say, it's not your fault. And I know this is Emma's mind, that this is Emma's brain, it's not her fault, but because Yugo's here, I'm going to be saying it's Yugo saying this, because this is actually something he would say at this point in the story, compared to when he was first introduced and he was just brushing them off. Although we get an explanation, we continue to get more explanations of what that actually entailed and why he was so adamant about that in this chapter. It's like one of the darkest moments I think I've ever seen in this series. Right next to Ray attempting suicide. Why is it that whenever I mention Ray and Yugo, it's like completely dark? It's like that. I've only just noticed like these two are like the ones that like actually bring on the darkness, and I just love that. But anyway, going on, Yugo says it's not your fault, and he continues to say, and this continues to shock Emma, and she's like, "But if I had not asked you to stay there, if I had kept them close to me, if I had just been more careful from the start," and then Yugo actually stops her. It's like, "Do you remember the talk we had back then?" And we see Emma remembering what talk they actually had, which was when they were actually back at the shelter before all of this happened, before Yugo actually left the shelter to help Emma and Ray reach Goldie Pod. And it was like, and the conversation they had was that the right choice? And Yugo says, "I was dead wrong, girl." Of course, it's very important to try your hardest to decide the best alternative, but that's not the be all end all of it all. And that's really important, because yes, you do try to find the best alternative, but at the end of the day, sometimes that's just not the case. But that really shouldn't get you down. And despite everything, you should really just try on and just try your best, even if it means like something bad happening. So anyway, Yugo goes on to explain that no one in the world can know in advance what the choice will be, which choice will be the best. That's impossible. Very good advice there. Like, no one can actually predict what's going to happen, or what choice is actually going to be the best, unless you have a clear idea, and you know in advance. Like with any book, like if you have like people like giving you opinions on each chapter, you can actually influence the decision. You can actually influence the decision then and make the best alternative. Although Yugo actually brings this up as well. The point is what comes after, making the best out of your choices. Again, this is again like with the writers of the series. I feel like this is the writers actually telling the audience, like, look, we don't know what the best course of action is, like in terms of action in both a figurative and a literal sense. But they work with their choices, and they work with what they've got to produce the best content that they can actually possibly create, and actually get an idea of what is actually going to come next. And Yugo continues on to say, if the path you've chosen brings about something bad, that's all the more reason for you to work even harder to find out how to proceed. If you just focus on plans and predictions, you end up playing games with people's lives. And this is something that's basically Yugo saying, like, look, you can prepare and you can prepare preparations, but don't do it all the time, and don't think like, what's going to happen, what can I do, if I thought this way, if I thought that way, then maybe it might have turned out different. Because then Emma is playing with their lives, and she's just got to think like, okay, this didn't work, so we've got to think even harder to make something else work. And this is just like a complete wake-up call for Emma's character, about how she's just been constantly planning, constantly preparing, and even though sometimes it's led to things working out, other times it's led to the death of characters, like we've seen in this case with the attack from Andrew. It's led to the death of four characters that Emma has known over the past 2 years. And I feel like this is a complete wake-up call of like, look, you've just got to keep moving, keep working hard, and thinking about how to proceed. And if you do, you might actually end up with a brighter future in the end, if you think that way. And it continues to go on by Yugo saying, stand by your choice, Emma. Take responsibility for them. Whatever happens, keep moving forward. Again, like what I've just said, it's like, just keep working your hardest, Emma, and then you'll be able to move forward to a brighter future. And that's what I love about Yugo. I saw like being a mentor like Lucas to Emma, but particularly in this case, it's like the mentor figure of this chapter, like saying like, look, even though it is Emma's mind telling her this, she perceives it as Yugo and think like this is something Yugo would say, and she has got to take responsibility for this kid. She's got to be the leader. She's got to make the choices, and she's got to think like they might be the best choice, but if they're not, then we'll just have to work harder next time to figure out this position and create a brighter future for everyone involved. As Yugo says to Emma, "You will change the world, Emma." She looks shocked and says, "What are you talking like this for? You'll be with us, right? You'll change the world along with us." And then we see Yugo smiling and looking very sad and saying, "Sorry, Emma." I'm like, oh my god, Yugo! Seriously, this chapter, one of the most emotional chapters. I will say, this chapter made me cry. I'm not gonna lie, this chapter made me cry, especially with Yugo and just how much shit he's actually been through over the past 13 years. But there may be points where it might have actually been much more tragic for him and much more effective if we actually saw him when he first entered the shelter by himself. But think about it from his perspective. It's kind of like with Brooke. Brooke living on a ship for 50 years with the rotting corpses of his crewmates. Yugo living in a shelter, total isolation, even though he can go outside and hunt, and he had to do that in order to keep surviving. But still, total isolation, no one to talk to. At least Brooke could actually manifest figurine. Actually, yeah, it is kind of like Brooke as well. Like Yugo is kind of like Brooke, where it's like it manifesting people just so that he had someone to talk to. He went completely insane, and he was and oh my god, that is dark when you think about it. Trapped in a shell for 30 years, no one's talked to, thinking all your friends are dead, and thinking that there's no hope in the world. Oh my god, I've not even got to that part yet, and I'm thinking about just how dark that is. But anyway, Emma finally wakes up and finally realises, oh, I see, this is a dream. And then she realises Yugo and Lucas are probably, and then we do get to the flashback with Yugo, and oh my god, like I just said, if this doesn't make you cry, guys, whoa, you have more stern ironclad than I do. So anyway, we cut to Yugo's flashback, which takes place in January 2046, which was around about a month. No, I think a month and a half before Emma's group arrived. This is right around the time when they're actually planning the escape from Gracefield House. So yeah, we see Yugo return to the shelter, and he's like, "Another year. I've lost count by now. These lonely days are all the same. I'm scared. It hurts. I don't want to think." And again, it's just like showing how much of an insane mind he actually has at this point. Like 13 years in this shelter, nobody, and it's just like it's all the same. I don't want to think about this, because the more I think about this, the more I'm gonna get emotional about them, and the more crazy I'm gonna go. And sure enough, we actually see him manifest the actual people that he escaped, that he was in his orphanage with, but then he looks at an empty table, and it just shows like his mind going crazy, and he's literally at this point got his hand over his mouth, about to throw up and saying, "Nobody's there. They're all dead, and it's my fault." And this is like a neat parallel to what Emma's actually thinking. Like if he had actually just been there for them, then they might have actually had a chance to survive. But he actually escaped by himself, and he thinks that they're all dead. At this point in the series, obviously Lucas is alive at this point in the series during the flashback, but he doesn't know that, and he thinks they're all dead, and it's actually making him physically sick to think like what the demons actually did to them, and it's actually causing him to lose mind and just like break his head, and it's like, and just like the mental insanity and the mental torment that he's had to live with for 13 years, guys. 13 years he's had to live with this mental torment. That would drive anyone insane. I don't care who you are. Just think like all your friends are dead and you don't know who's going to be actually coming for you. And it just shows just how complex he actually was. Like he didn't want to make a relationship with Emma and the other kids because of the fear of what he actually went through. And it just shows again just how much of a rounded character he has. Because at the beginning, like I said, he seemed like a cold-hearted bastard. But after witnessing all he's been through and actually seeing all he's been through, can you really blame him for the way he acted when Emma first showed up? no, I can't. And I understand why he actually went through that and why he threatened to kill Emma, because it was his way of coping. Like, if I kill them, then I don't have to think about making a relationship with them, and I don't have to go through that torment of losing someone I care about all over again. As he continues to slowly break down and say, I have to live, why do I have to live? Yugo live on. I have to live, I have to live, I have to live, I have to live. Again, just showing just how insane he's actually going through. And as he picks up a cup, it shows a flashback. I think it's of Dana saying, let's have a tea party. And we see him going on and saying to himself, living tucked in a hole every day can be depressing. I'm sure it can be. God, how do hobbits cope? How do hobbits cope? Some hobbits just being secluded in a hole all day. I feel like that's something that would have actually been interesting to address in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. But yeah, moving on, we see Yugo saying we should indulge a bit at the end of the day, make everybody happy, and it's showing like his mind is actually trying to cope with the situation and think like, oh, everybody's here, but no, they're not here, they're dead. No, they really are here, and it's just showing these two strains on his mind just battling with each other for control. And he says, if we didn't go to Goldie Pond, you all would have been eating these cookies too. And he apologises and he says, I can't do it anymore. I beg you, please forgive me. And it shows him like just pulling out his gun and just putting it to his head, thinking like, I've had enough. I need to go and see you guys right now. You're all dead. I'm going to see you. Like, holy shit. Whoa. That is so dark, and it's just like, just the depression on his face, it's just like oozing off, just like this black mist, like he just wants to end it right now. We've gone point and said, this was the moment I was talking about, of like, if you want to talk about dark moments from the Promised Neverland, look no further. This is probably one of the darkest moments ever. Like, just the whole thing dealing with Yugo as a whole, his backstory, what he was when he first met Emma, like just the turmoil he went through, and how he's so similar to Emma, and how him and Lucas are so similar to Emma, Ray and Dana, and how so similar to Emma, Ray and Norman, and just the struggle he's going through. And I feel like this is gonna come back at some point. Like, some people, like about half the group is gonna die, and Emma's just gonna do pretty much the same thing that Yugo did with a gun, but unlike Yugo, which if Emma's that would actually been really interesting to see what if Yugo had actually pulled the trigger then and there, rather than seeing what happens next, because at this point as he's actually trying to pull the trigger, that's when Emma's group finally realized, and he said, on that day, I barely failed to find relief in death. And it's like, what if Emma's group appeared a day later? Yugo would have been dead because he was willing to end it at that point. I was just like, holy shit, yeah. I love this chapter. It just has it all. It has it all. It has like the inspiration, but also just the depression that this series just goes through. Like, just look at the series as a whole. It's like, you want to talk about dark series, this is quite a dark series. In fact, I would argue this is darker than Attack on Titan, because you just have a character who's just lost everything, just in a shelter, just like going mentally insane. It's like, I can't do this anymore, I want to end it. It's like, whoa. This is in Shonen Jump. This is still in Shonen Jump, and it has a moment like that, like Yugo just has a whoa. So anyway, as the flashback with Yugo continues, we see him saying, but thanks to that, and we see Emma in the flashback within the flashback saying, we'll survive together. And we see him thinking about Emma and Ray and everyone, and saying, I got to meet you all and see Lucas again. And that must have been one of the most happiest moments of his life, seeing I know they're all foster brothers and sisters, but like seeing his brother figure, like his proper brother figure in Lucas, just seeing him again, that must have been the happiest moment of his life. One of the happiest moments of his life, just seeing him again. And it says, and he continues on to say, we got to make them pay, put that place down, again referring to Goldie Pond, and see a glance at the future. And actually Controlled Chaos actually brought this up as like, why did they actually destroy Goldie Pond when they could have used it as a base of agents? I think it's actually quite obvious. It's like, that place just caused so much distraught to a lot of the kids. Like, if it stayed around, like Theo, like the young kid that we met at the beginning of the Goldie Pond, like had Jake and Monica as his siblings, and they were completely wiped out. Also all just like the emotional scarring that went through, not just for Theo but for also Emma and Lucas and Yugo, because they lost. I feel like because I'm pretty sure they lost Dana in Goldie Pond, and I feel like no, we don't want to live in this place because it just has so many bad memories. I feel like that's the reason why they destroyed it, because just so many bad memories, and I can't blame them for that, because if I had a place but it was like full of like just like people that I cared about dying, and just like the emotional turmoil that these villains have actually put me through, yeah, I'd probably destroy it as well. I'd probably have nothing to do with it. And Hugo continues to say, I sure had a lot of fun this year and a half, and after what he went through on those 13 years, it is poignant and it is appropriate that he did at least have a reason to continue living and continue to at least see into the future a little bit more. And I feel like, again, this is the icing on the cake to Yugo's story, because like I said, he died, he's dead, and he's not coming back, and we know it, and Emma and pretty much all the other kids know it. And I feel like that's a problem, because his and Lucas's story are done. We got to find out the backstory, what they're all about, how they came in contact with the demons, how they fought against the demons and lost initially, and how they fought back. And despite everything, despite dying, they've at least given a hope for the future in the form of Emma and Ray. As Hugo continues on, he says, "Oh damn it, I don't want to die. I'm glad to stay alive. I want to stay alive now. I want to see the human world." And that's actually quite sad that Hugo will never get a chance to see that, and Lucas as well. They never get to see a chance of seeing themselves be free. I mean, they were free, but they never get a chance to experience being properly free and appreciate being properly free now, because they were still in the demon world, and they still had a chance of actually being hunted down. So it's actually quite sad that they actually didn't get to experience that. Although, if and when we do get into the human world, and it turns out like it's not as paradisey as we were first interpreted as, I feel like that might have been for the better, because we don't know what's going on in the human world, and for all we know, like as soon as they enter it, they could be hunted as well. And again, I would love the idea of if in human world we actually have demons that are being hunted in the same way like humans are being hunted in demon world. That would be interesting to actually see. Hugo says, I suck. Guess I should have trained more, but if it's to save those kids, I can die with a smile on my face. I'm like, oh my god, Hugo! Well, you were one of the best characters, Hugo. Props to the authors for your character. It's just like dying with a smile on your face, knowing that you've been able to save people that can actually make a difference in this world, and I just love you for that, Hugo. Definitely in my top 5 characters. I mean, Emma is still my top character, but you might even be in my top 3 actually. Because I think I've said that Emma, Ray, Hugo, Lewis, and Isabella, like they're my top characters. But I feel like it'll be Emma, Ray, Hugo, like top characters definitely. I feel like Hugo, solid number 3 spot based on everything he's been through. And I actually really need to make another video about Hugo and Lucas, because I made one back when Goldie Pond was still going on, but I feel like I really need to make another one at some point, probably when we have a break at Christmas. I'll probably do another video on Lucas and Hugo, just explaining everything that they've actually been through, which, whoa, that'll actually be longer than what initially went through. I'm not planning it. I'm not saying that it's going to definitely happen, but I might actually do it, and it might actually be out at Christmas, or I'll probably just wait until the series ends, so I can actually probably collect my thoughts together, rather than actually just focus on like, right, I've got to get everything out this week, what have I missed, and actually missing things. So I might actually wait until the end of the series, but I'm not making any promises. It might be out at Christmas, might not, we'll see. So as Hugo finally makes his final piece saying, "Make our future come true, stay strong, Emma," we see the gun being fired off by Lucas, which destroys the gas cannon. And we see Emma running through the forest, and we see just like the distraught look on her face, like she knows exactly what's happened now. As we see her looking off into the distance and saying, "No, this isn't real. It's not real." Hugo, and we see smoke coming from the shelter, so that it confirms to her that Hugo is actually dead. And again, I'm waiting next chapter to see her actually say her reaction and being like, just like breaking down completely, like kind of like what happened with One Piece with Ace, how when Ace died, Luffy just broke down, and it's just like it took him a while to come out of this. I feel like something like this is going to come out, is going to be similar happen to Emma in the next chapter, and if it does, I cannot wait to see just like the psychological torment that's actually going to be going on through her mind again, which just makes her again such a fascinating character. But now we need to move on to the climax. So anyway, we cut to a blank void where we see Lucas going to Yugo and saying, "Yugo, wake up, come on, get up." And we see Lucas without the scars on. We see him without the scars, and we see him with both hands, confirming that yes, they are indeed dead, and this is the afterlife. And we see him go, and we see Lucas going, "Look." And Yugo just breaking down and saying, how long have I wanted to see this? And we see all of Yugo's friends that he actually lost throughout the years, like all the people who actually escaped with and died at Goldie Pond and throughout his travels. We just see them there waiting for him in heaven, and which is what he wanted to. He wanted to, but when he was actually going to commit suicide, he actually wanted to see this. He actually wanted to meet them again and be happy with them. And we see him breaking down and saying, "Guys," and we see Dana just there with him, like just seeing him, and it just makes him break down and saying, "My bad, friends, I ended up here a lot sooner than I thought." And we see Diana go, "Shh, it's okay." And we see them saying, "It was so hard, wasn't it? Thank you, Yugo." And that's where the chapter ends, with them saying, for the sake of his comrades, for their memory, to the very end, his gentleness brought him to peace at last. And we see the final panel of the chapter, which is just him surrounded by his friends in the afterlife. So, what to say about this chapter? Just that it's full of emotion, great turmoil in Emma's part. Great to see her thoughts come back in the form of someone that she actually had a relationship with. And it was great to see what happened to Yugo during the time before he met Emma's group, and just how insane he was going, and how he just longed to see his friends again, particularly Dana. And it was just, and him just like saying, "Good luck, Emma. We're counting on you. Make our future and make us proud." And again, with him and Lucas, it's a perfect end for their story. And yeah, it is just the perfect end for their story based on everything they've gone through, and they deserve some happiness, and they got it in the afterlife. But one thing I really, really wanted to know, and we might find out about this post-mortem, is Yugo Ray's uncle, because if that actually comes up, then I will just be happy. It will make the story of Yugo complete. Like, if he truly is Ray's uncle, he at least encouraged him to keep moving forward, along with Emma, and make the future a better place. But anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say. It was, this last panel like really got to me, like just seeing how happy Yugo was. Even though it's bittersweet that he actually died along with Lucas, it was mainly Yugo's chapter. Like, this was Yugo's story coming to a conclusion. We knew more about him than Lucas because we had more time to get to know him, and it's just a great conclusion to both their stories and how they've inspired the next generation, and they can move on with that inspiration and particularly give Emma and Ray being like the leaders that they can actually be. And it did actually make me cry, and it's actually going to make me more emotional now that I think about it, the more I continue on. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz, and let me know if you think Peter Reveiw is going to come out of the works and going to be like, right, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to get those kids myself. They've caused me so much trouble for way too long. I'm going to continue. I'm going to hunt them down myself. But anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say, and this will be Luke signing off. Later, guys. Oh, and something else I forgot to mention before I go is that I'm really happy that the authors didn't cheat us out of this chapter. It gave us what we wanted. It's like Yugo did die, Lucas did die. Andrew was still in debate about that, but I think it's pretty much established that he's dead as well. And I'm glad they didn't cheat us out, and they didn't go with the route of like, oh no, they're not dead, like what happened with Ray when he tried to commit suicide and blow himself up. Although what gets me worried is that if Andrew does survive this, people are going to be right. But I just want to say one thing. Was anybody writing when Perospero survived being blown up right on top of Pedro? No, I don't think anybody was complaining about that. So I need you guys to know, like, if Andrew's alive, don't complain about that, because it's happened before with One Piece and nobody complained about that. And if anybody did complain about that, let me know, because I really want to know. I really want to know that, because how is it that One Piece can get away with doing stuff like that, like treating yourself a character's death, but Promised Neverland can't do that? Tell me that. Let me know. But anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say. And this will be Lash Luke for Definite signing off now. Later, guys.